You're in for such a treat. Oh, I love my friend Carl Nicpon and the incredible wisdom that he shares. Coming to UGA, getting his master's, moving into the Atlanta area to help run his third generation family business. The idea that he had of a roll up and an exit to private equity, to being a professor at UGA now and helping mergers and acquisitions, business owners like you and I that are looking to exit their business. Here's my friend Carl. Welcome to Market Mavericks. I'm Matthew Eford. Join me as I speak with leaders who are redefining industries in every corner of the market. From startups to established businesses, we'll uncover the strategies, challenges, and insights that drive success. Get ready to be inspired by the Mavericks who are shaping the future of business. Welcome, everybody, to the Pillars of Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Eford, and today I have a true market maverick with me. I am so excited for you to hear from my friend Carl. Carl and I are in the Institute for Entrepreneurship here in Atlanta, Georgia, that we've known each other now for several years, been in a small group together there, or in the larger cohort together, and is somebody that I've just always appreciated time with him and his insights and the way that he leads in his family and leads in his organization. So, Carl, for those who do not know you, if you're come on, welcome to the show, and introduce yourself and what line of business are you in?
Yeah, Matthew, it's great to be here. Thanks for the invitation and for the generous, warm welcome. I'm an M&A advisor. What that means is I help business owners retire when they're ready to sell their business. We'll talk more about, how that works and what that means in a little bit, and maybe also a little bit about past, because I haven't always done this. But it's a lot of fun, and I love working with good people.
I love that. So let's take a step back. What were you doing before this?
Yeah, so I was third generation in my family business.
It's amazing.
And yeah, so entrepreneurs at heart in our family. And that was in the wedding and prom industry.
Okay.
If your listeners are in and around the Southeast, they might recognize either Savvy Filmware or Genghis Filmware. That was our family. Largest bridal shop in Atlanta was Anya Bridal. And so I came into that business as third generation, bought our parents, my cousin and I bought our parents out of that business so that they could have their retirement.
Okay.
And then we looked eventually towards our own exit and decided that we were not going to be passing it on to the fourth generation. And so we created a roll up in the industry of 7 companies, and that then went to a private equity group.
Wow. Okay. So there's a ton there. Let's start there.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So you come in as a third generation. Talk about the expectations on you as an individual, as a man, in leading in this organization of like, I've got to carry on what my grandparents started. Can you give us a little bit of that perspective?
Well, sure. What's interesting is that this is one of those businesses that actually got started with the second generation. Here's how it looked. My dad and mom were living in Chicago at the time. They saw an opportunity to this business in Atlanta. They went to her parents, we're all Polish, so you're gonna hear
Okay.
you're gonna hear that come out in a second here. Went to her parents and said, we're gonna be heading to Atlanta. And her dad said, well, you're gonna need capital, so I'm coming with you.
Wow.
And it wasn't, this is a patriarch had spoken,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And then her brother said, well, I'm not out in the cold on this, literally, so I'm coming too. What was brilliant about that is that it created, 3 times the firepower
Sure.
right out of the gate.
Yeah, sure.
My dad then passed away when I was a teenager. My mom took the business over, and she was president for a long, long time. And what I love about all of that is first of all, entrepreneurs starting something from scratch. Second of all, doing it as a family.
Yeah.
That is a challenge, and they were always taking care of each other. And then the third piece is that, my mom, no college education, came in, stepped up, ran the business, and did a brilliant job.
It's amazing.
And really blessed to be child of all of that.
Sure.
Expectations wise, I had nothing to do with the business. I was in education, had met my wife in Chicago, and got the call from my family saying we could really use your help. I looked at my wife and said, "What do you think about raising kids in the South?" She said, "Let's try it." And we got pregnant with our first as we moved down to Atlanta. And the expectation, there wasn't a specific expectation. It was really like, roll your sleeves up and help us figure out how to take this business into the future.
Okay.
It had been running the way it had been running. Um, I think my mom suspected that the technology needed to sort of get a reboot.
Sure.
While I wasn't trained, computer science really wasn't a thing back then. My oldest is now a CS grad, right? But wasn't a thing back then. It was there. We figure it out, and she basically said, um, "Help us figure this out," and that's exactly what we did.
Wow. Okay. So you come into the business, and how long has the business been operating? Number one. And number two, at what point do you take over?
Yeah. Uh, so the business was founded in 1970. I came in 2002.
Okay. So
Um,
32 years, the business has been up, running. Your mom's been at the helm for how long?
she'd been so my dad passed away in '88, so she'd been at the
Okay.
helm for 14 years.
14 years. Okay. And so
And
she brings you in
mhm.
and talk to us. That's just such a unique perspective, right? There's all the family dynamics, obviously, but also just the skill set and leadership of stepping into an organization that's been running, and we're going to make some changes. That's why you brought me in. You did not bring me in to keep the status quo. You brought me in to bring some changes. Talk to us about that.
Well, yeah. So at the time, I had gotten a master's in clinical social work and a
Okay.
master's in education. I was an educator and I was a clinician working in schools and
Okay.
running special support services for kids who need support in schools. And when I came into the business, I was like, well, I have not had a single business class in my life,
Wow.
and that's not going to work. So I went and got my MBA at the University of Georgia.
Go
Um,
dogs.
Go Dogs. Eventually ended up teaching there and still teach there now. So we'll tell about that later. But what was so cool is I would go into this program and I'd come back after every class and I'd say, I just learned something new. Now, eventually, the team was like, "Oh crap, Carl's coming back from another school
Yeah.
weekend. What are we going to be hearing now, right? What's the new latest thing that he's learned about?"
More
Because
things we got to change. Yeah.
right. But they had a lot of patience with me, and gave me a lot of grace and a lot of
Okay.
room to try things and to change some things. And that took a lot of faith on everyone's part.
Sure.
Uh, I can't tell you that there was like a specific time because there was just a gradual transition.
Cool.
I will say that one of the things that happened was uh, my cousin and I, we weren't exactly on board with this whole, we were going to be the third generation to take ownership. In fact, we had tried to get our parents an exit and we couldn't make it happen. And
Okay.
and that was part of what formed our sort of understanding that it was going to be important for us when we took it over to really be intentional about working
So
towards it.
tell us more about that, right? Because we got a lot of entrepreneurs that listen to this, and they see like I can go build a business and then sell it for millions of dollars and retire and never have to do anything.
I wish it were that easy.
It would be so nice. But tell us what was that experience? Why were they not able to get an exit? Give us some insight there and help frame it from the perspective of now what can we do differently? What did you and your cousin come in and do differently?
Well, okay, so uh, one of the challenges was, and this is, so I went to a colleague of mine from the MBA program who was an M&A attorney,
Okay.
mergers and acquisitions attorney,
Okay.
and worked in very large transactions. And I said to him, "You know everything there is to know about this business. We are going to be small in comparison to the kinds of transactions you work on. So I know we're going to work on a transaction together, but you got to know
Sure.
everybody.
Sure.
So can you point me in the direction of the right advisor team to work on this with us so we can get our parents taken care of. That is what led us to an advisor in Atlanta. I brought the whole family to meet him, and we all walked out of that meeting and said, if that's the best there is in Atlanta, I don't think this is right for us.
Wow.
Now, the mistake I made is that I assumed that that was representative of how all advisors were working.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good distinction.
And now inside the industry, I know that's not the case.
Sure.
However, um, you know, that is part of what sort of stopped us from going forward with an advisor. And I think things would have been different had we maybe looked for other options.
Okay.
The other piece of it was that our parents really did want to see us take the helm. And so it was, I think, largely their intention that they said, that's okay, because this is
Sure.
what we think is best anyway.
So you and your cousin, you formally buy them out.
Yep.
How long did you all, both of you, maintain ownership over before you actually did the roll up and sell to private equity?
Yeah, it was a few years, and it wasn't a long period of time.
Okay.
It felt like a lot longer because you know we were delayed in actually making the transition on paper from our parents, and we gave them a lot of freedom,
Okay.
and they gave us a lot of freedom to run the business as we saw fit. One of the things that we sort of changed is we made a lot more decisions based on data and analysis.
Okay. So give me just one example. When you say that, a small
Yep.
business owner hears that and they're like, "Oh yeah, sure, I should do that." But what does that mean?
Yeah. So like at the time, we had 14 stores in Atlanta, and one of the questions that we were constantly grappling with is what's the right place to have a store in Atlanta?
Sure.
And Atlanta population was metro Atlanta population is constantly changing, moving around, and shifting, and that meant we needed to say, okay, we'll constantly evaluate, should we be renewing this lease or that lease? One of the ways that traditionally had been done was by looking at sales volume in each location.
Okay.
And one of the things that we were able to upgrade in that was not just look at the dollars that went out the door in a location, but the dollars that got booked by a location, even if they went out at another door.
Oh, okay.
So imagine
Yeah.
you're getting married, and you find a location that's close to you, right? And you go and you say, "Hey, I got 8 guys that I need to take care of. Got some groomsmen, I got a couple of dads, and there's me." And they're going to come from all over the place. Well, they don't all have to go to that one location to get their
Sure.
wares,
Sure.
and but we weren't crediting all of those dollars to the day that you walked in and said, "I'm bringing my business to you, no matter where my guys need to go."
Makes total sense. So it definitely changes the perspective that you have on a location.
That's
You
right.
may have one that you feel is underperforming, but actually it's not.
Or
So,
vice versa.
or yeah, oh, definitely vice versa. So, what decisions did you make with that data?
So with that data, we changed uh, how we renewed leases, and in some cases that meant we went to the landlords and said, "Look, we can't renew a lease at the rates that you're proposing. Here are the true numbers. Even though we have to report to you sales numbers, here are the true numbers." And so sometimes it was negotiating, and sometimes it was purely that's not worth it for us to have a location in this spot. We're going to look for other places where Atlanta is growing
Okay.
to see the population that we were serving better.
Sure. So you get in, you and your cousin own it now. You start making some more strategic decisions based on data, getting better data, not just looking at generic data, better data that's going to help you make more informed decisions. And then you find this idea. Did you have initially the idea of the roll up to exit to private equity, or did
No, we
that
did.
just how did that come about?
So, as you can imagine, the wedding industry is a very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a very small industry.
Sure.
Uh, and there's a lot of gossip,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Amongst business owners in that community.
Okay.
So, one of the things that we had to really be careful about was not getting too um, vocal about considering looking for an exit. The last thing you want to do is have your people find out from, you know, social media. Of course, we didn't have social media at the time, but from the gossip chain
Sure.
that your owners were looking at selling. So we had to be very careful about that.
Okay.
Now, turns out that um, we were able to uh, do a little bit of a do-si-do dance with
Okay.
another owner who was kind of in the same spot that we were. And, we very gingerly tap danced around that conversation until we were both confident that we were talking about the same thing.
Yeah. Cool.
Um, and then that sort of led to, okay, uh, there's some opportunity here. And if we start having conversation with the right people, and then it could work.
So, what did that roll up look like? So, for those, let's take one step back. For
Yeah.
those who have no clue what a roll up is, can you give us just a real quick, from an educator standpoint? Here's what a roll up looks like, and then how it applied to your business.
Yeah, pretty simple. It's kind of taking a number of companies in the same industry, having one organization, bring them all under one group, and operate them together. And in some cases, that roll up might mean that the owners of those companies maintain some amount of ownership in the go forward entity. And
Okay.
in some cases, that's cash out, right?
Okay.
But it's bringing together a number of companies to work together under one new uh, financially backed institution.
I love that. And so, did y'all go out this? I mean, we can cut this if you need to. Did you self finance the roll up, or did you get third party financing for that?
No, it was third party financing,
Nice.
and
Yeah. Cool.
your listeners can know that that's not an issue for us.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, third party financing, and 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 as a part of that, that third party also, you know, he who holds the gold makes the rules. So they also get to choose who's going to be the leadership. Now, we had some initial, you know, work in that because we brought the technology platform that
Okay.
those changes that we made when I came in early
Sure.
turned out to be very instrumental
Nice.
um, in our eventual exit.
Okay.
And if there's one lesson there, it's that don't be afraid to really invest in areas that you believe are going to make a big difference for your business.
I
And
love that.
we felt like technology was a big part of that,
And it ended up being.
and it did, and it did
So,
that.
so when you look over that exit, our mutual friend, dear friend, Chris Hanks, who runs the Institute of Entrepreneurship, he always talks about everybody who exits a business has regrets. So, without going into details you can't go into, is there anything that in that process that you learned that has, let's take it from this perspective. What have you learned through your exit that has helped you, the advice that you share as an M&A advisor now?
Yeah, there's a lot. So let's see if I can just kind of narrow it down a little bit. The first
Sure.
thing is that it is very emotional. It's very stressful.
Okay.
And you need a team to help you manage all of that. And you've got to have your family behind you.
Sure.
Um, I think that's number one. Uh, Number two, this is advice that I was given in the middle of it. When you're going through that process, continue to run your business as if it will not transition. Do not change
Oh,
anything.
okay. Yeah. Okay.
Do not change anything until the ink is dry and the cash has changed hands.
Okay.
And then let's see here. The third thing is, remember I said that we, the mistake we made was we assumed that that one advisor was representative of all advisors.
Sure.
And we felt like if that was the case, then we might as well just go do this on our own. Well, the did we find a buyer? Yes. Is it the case that most business owners probably know a good buyer in the industry? I think, in fact, many do. What that doesn't mean is that that's the right buyer for your business.
Okay.
It also means that process, even if you might sell to that one buyer, probably would benefit from a competitive bidding environment. So kind
Okay.
of think of like, you know, are you going to go and just get a handshake deal done with somebody that you know? That offer will not be as strong as if you went and imagine a Mission Impossible scene with a
Sure.
auction,
Yeah,
except
sure.
for except for in this auction, the buyers don't know each other. They don't know who's bidding on this, and they don't know what they're bidding. All they know is that they've got to put their best foot forward if they want to get a transaction done.
Cool.
And I think that is an area where we left money on the table.
Okay. That's incredibly good advice. So let's take it now from the perspective of you're an M&A. You also are teaching at UGA.
Yeah.
Let's take the M&A route first, and then let's get to UGA because we love the dogs. When you look at advisors, not yourself, I don't want you to throw shade at anybody, but let's look at businesses that you work with.
Mhm.
They come to you and they say, "Hey, Carl, I want to sell." What are mistakes that you regularly see that our business owners that are listening to this can say, "Hey, I don't want to be in that case. When I want to get to where I'm looking to exit, I want to have some my ducks in a row." What are those ducks that we need to be getting lined up?
Okay. The biggest two mistakes that business owners make is that they try to do it on their own
Okay.
and they wait too late to start making the transition plans.
Okay. And so what does that look like? What when you say transition plans, just to make sure everybody's on the same page, what is that? What does that look like?
Okay. So first of all, let's take the case. Let's take sort of a very common standard case of how an exit goes, and then that'll help us back into answering the question.
Okay.
Uh, let's just say that as a business owner, you want to be done at the working, you want to be retired, done working at the end of 2028.
Okay.
So the process of selling the business from the time you take it to market, it's 9 to 12 months. So that means all of 2028 is spent marketing the business,
Sure.
going through due diligence, right? Identifying the buyers, all of that. And that's 2028. 2027. Oh, actually, hold on. I lied. I skipped something critical. That's 2027 because you don't get to walk away from the business when you sign the papers, hand over the keys, take your cash and run. The buyer is going to expect you to help transition the business to the new ownership,
Sure.
help the new owners learn how to run the business well, transition relationships for employees, customers, and vendors. And a common transition timeframe is a year. So 2028 is working with the buyer after the transaction is closed to help complete that transition to the new owner.
Okay.
2027 is the sale process.
Okay.
So what does that mean? That means that 2026 is the only year that you have left to prepare your company for the transaction. And what are some of the things that might mean doing? Well, can you today go and take a month-long vacation and have your business continue to operate and more importantly, continue to make new sales to new customers without missing a beat in your absence? And if the answer to that question is no, then you've got some work to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Now,
an incredible distinction. So let's just hit on that just for a second, because when you're looking to exit a business, right? People are wanting that defined ROI. They're wanting to know that you, Carl, are not the only reason this business is successful, because
right,
they're buying the business, they're not buying you, and they get that year of transition. Yeah, that's great, but at the end of 2028, when you peace out and it's your last day there, they need to know that the business operates in 2029,
that's right,
or they're not going to be willing to spend the money, right? That you're going
exactly.
to get such a smaller multiple. It's not going to be as good of an exit as you hope for as a family, as a business.
That's right. That's right. So one of the things that you're doing uh, leading up to that exit, and the more time you have to do this, the better, is you're bringing people around you to really empower them and have them make decisions. One of the best things a buyer just loves to hear when you're in due diligence is for you to say, I don't know, that's a great question. Let's ask Sam. She handles that for me. And quite honestly, she does it better than I ever did it. So let's find out. Uh, Business owners instinctively think that buyers, you know, want to know that they're in control of the business. Actually, buyers want to know that they were smart enough to hire other people who were better at these aspects of the business than they were.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
it's a fantastic point.
yeah. And the other thing is that it takes time to make sure that your books are in order. I think, as professionals running a business, right? We're really good at whatever we do. We were great at taking care of weddings.
Sure,
We were never trained around things like financial record keeping.
sure,
And so it wasn't until we hired a fractional CFO. Actually, she was our CFO. And some businesses aren't large enough to have a CFO in-house, so they hire a fractional CFO.
okay,
Uh, doesn't matter. Either way is great. But we would never have been able to sell our business had we not had, her name was Cheryl, an amazing CFO.
I love that. And so, what is that role within your organization? What was Cheryl doing? When somebody
So,
hears a fractional CFO, they're like, "Well, I have a bookkeeper. Like, I have an accountant. Why would I need a CFO?" What does that? What does that person do?
right. Well, one of the things, especially in small businesses, is that many people, especially in the office, grow into roles that are needed, right? So
Sure,
somebody who kind of starts out, bookkeeping, eventually becomes the accountant, essentially eventually becomes the, I don't know, VP of finance and accounting or whatever you call that leader. And they never got any training for it. They just got more stuff thrown at them.
sure,
This has happened in our company, and it happens in most small businesses. And uh, what what we need is somebody who's been through major events and knows how to take the books and clean them up. One of the things that we didn't know how to do was we didn't know how to look at the three different divisions of our company: bridal, retail, and wholesale,
okay,
and figure out which of those three was making the most profit.
okay,
Our CFO was able to walk us through a process that helped us to categorize our expenses, because we were just like, okay, put that on the credit card.
yeah.
And,
Oh, I've been there. Yeah, I got you.
and at the end of the day, the Amex bill got coded to Amex.
Sure,
The Amex bill didn't get coded to all the different items that went on that Amex bill, so that we knew where those expenses
sure,
actually belonged. So that was one of the things that our CFO helped us identify.
cool.
Now, at the end of the day, that also helped us be able to say to a potential buyer, we know rock solid where our expenses are, what our money's going
Yeah,
towards, and we had the records to prove it.
sure. We understand our margins. We
Right.
understand what the ROI is going to be when you invest in this. We also have the proven machine of this is the money this business generates, right? That's the goal. So when you look at it from the leadership standpoint, the system standpoint, what are you seeing businesses that have a higher multiple? I see those who are not watching; they're just listening. He's got traction on the his back shelf there. It's a great book he and I've talked a lot about. Are you seeing people operating on EOS or other management operating systems? Is that a huge win for a business owner looking to exit, or not really? What do you see there?
It is a huge win, and part of the reason is that it gets the entire team working together, uh, and taking responsibility for the outcomes
Cool.
rather than just kind of looking at the business owner and saying, "All right, boss, what do you want me to do next?"
Yeah,
And that kind of accountability and ownership amongst the mid-level and senior level managers is is critical for a business owner that wants to eventually be able to exit.
I love that. Okay, so you're at M&A. You're helping business owners like myself that are looking to exit either part of their business or all of their business. And you're a professor at UGA. Tell us that part of your story. Is that from your connection with your master's program there, the MBA, or what did that look like?
Yeah, yeah. So, and let me back up for a quick second and say there's a lot of different aspects to M&A. The one that we specialize in is helping a business owner make the most of that exit by negotiating the max deal.
I love that.
And that starts with understanding what's my business worth today? What do I want it to be worth? And then if there's a gap there, we don't necessarily do the consulting work to help them bridge the gap, but we know really good experts
Cool.
that can help them make up the difference in those areas. And we give them the strategy areas that will make the biggest difference in improving the business and improving the outcome.
I love
So
that. And let me take just one second there.
yeah,
The coach aspect, I love that perspective, right? We've got a lot of millennials and Gen Z that love the idea of having a coach. Some Gen Xers, but a lot of millennials. And it's that perspective. It's that perspective of you have somebody who's been down this path before and they know all the right steps to take. They know some of the gigantic landmines to avoid, but they also have in their Rolodex the right people to talk to. Because then, like for yourself, you're not going to the wrong meeting and the family walks away like, this is not going to be right for us. And it's no, you had the wrong meeting with the wrong person. You
exactly.
needed a different meeting with a different person. So that's what you're able to do. And we'll make sure at the end we're going to have all your contact info there so people can reach out to you. But you get into UGA. Is that through your MBA program? How did that start?
Right. So I did the MBA program, absolutely loved it. And at the end of the program, about a year later, the director of the program approached me and said, "I would really like to have you teach in the program.
Well,
Um, would you consider that?" And I was floored because that was not on my radar,
sure.
and I was honored. And a number of my classmates uh, sort of kind of just told me that they thought that I would do a good job of that, mostly from their perspective, because I was, without realizing it, sort of one of the go-to people in our cohort that when when somebody didn't understand something, they'd reach out to me and say, "Help
Nice.
me
Yeah.
understand
Cool.
how this works." And that came actually from helping my mom a lot.
Okay.
Because she would be in a meeting and she would hear all these different things and she'd turn to me and be like, "You got to break this down for me." And I sort of translated um, the highfalutin academic language or the technical language into everyday English. Um, and that's sort of kind of, I think, one of the pieces that bridged the gap and helped me, you know, play that role at UGA. One of the things that, so I teach a course called Service Management, which doesn't tell you very much, but for those who have done an MBA or who have any business school experience, even as an undergrad, you'll know that so much of what they talk about in B school is about widgets, right?
Sure.
And it's this whole idea about hard products and
Okay.
manufacturing, right?
Okay.
Well, at this point in time, the United States economy is only 20% manufacturing, it's 80% services. The
Wow.
course that I teach translates the core curriculum of the MBA into applying it for the service-based economy that is 80% of what gets transacted in the US these days.
It's awesome. I love that.
It's a lot of fun.
So how long have you been teaching that course at this time?
I've been teaching it for 15 years.
Yeah, it's awesome. That's so good. Okay, so when you look at your life as a business owner, as a advisor, as a professor, there's all these different ways you can take this question. But one of the questions I'd love to get is when you look over your professional career, a mistake you made and what some advice that you learned from it. We've hit on a couple of those things, but just overall, just to kind of help break down the mold of like Carl's an incredible guy, and I've known you for several years now, and I admire you a lot. But Carl's made mistakes along the road, right? And there's so much that we can learn from other people's mistakes. So there's there one that you would look at in any of those kind of career paths that you would like to share?
Yeah. So I'll share this because I made this mistake and because I think it's one that a lot of entrepreneurs are prone to, and it's easy to see why.
Sure.
As an entrepreneur, the one skill set we have in common is that we know how to figure stuff out,
Okay.
right? We know how to, over time, through trial and error, get better at doing something until we become really good at it.
Okay.
And that gave me a false sense of capability when it came to running this transaction for the sale of our business for our family. And why I say that is you only have one shot to get it right.
Sure.
So the very thing that you get good at, right, is iterating over time. You can't do. There is no iteration when you're selling your business. There's one shot. And if you miss, that impacts everything for the
Sure.
rest of your life.
Sure.
So the biggest one I would say is don't fall into the trap that you think, okay, I know how to do this. I've done this before. I've figured stuff out. I'm good at that. I'll
Yeah.
figure this out like I figured everything else out.
Yeah. That's very timely advice for me because that is a phrase that I've said a lot around our organization is yeah, it's okay. I figured it out. I'll figure it out and we will figure it out. But there are so many of those tight decisions that we should consider on the M&A side when you're looking to exit or you think you're getting closer to exiting that you need to start having some conversations with professionals. It's like your accountant, it's like your lawyer. You know, we have access to information at the tip of our fingers, specifically with ChatGPT and AI, but it's there's a lack of translation through analysis of the whole picture, which somebody who's been there, who does that this is their skill set is super needed.
Yep. Yep. And by the way, ChatGPT, whichever version you use, right? All really great tools. But again, another false sense of security,
Yeah.
That you've got the right answer. And if you talk to any lawyer, this is a great example. They will tell you that they have time and again, had to clean up a mess that was made by relying too heavily on AI, especially
Yeah.
for legal advice.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a mess. Please, everybody who's listening to this, please don't do that. Okay, so let's, Carl. Thank you so much for your time. You've been very gracious with it with our audience. As we kind of come to the end, a couple of questions I'd love to kind of close on. Number one, as an avid reader, I'm always looking for another book. I know you are as well. Anything that you've read recently or that you refer out to business owners that's going to help them lead their organization better?
Yeah. So, well, we've already talked about traction, and I know you've talked about a lot about that with your readers. So that's a good one. I think, especially for newer entrepreneurs, if you haven't read the E Myth Revisited,
Yeah, see it there on top of your stack.
yeah, that's right. That's a great place to start. And when I share that with people, they often come back to me and say, "Wow, that was eye-opening." So that's to me one that's not to be missed. There's one other one that I have really enjoyed recently that I'll share, and it's called From Strength to Strength.
Okay.
Um, it's Arthur C. Brooks is the author, and for business owners that are really on the cusp of that transaction and starting to think about what's next in their life. Um, I think this is a really great book because if, as a business owner, you you have to have something to run towards.
Okay.
And I hear a lot of people saying, "I'm tired and I'm exhausted," and it's time for someone else to take the reins.
Sure.
That's running from, and there's nothing wrong with running from. You have to also have something to run towards. And I think From Strength to Strength is something to help get the juices flowing
I love that.
around what am I going to run towards.
Yeah, cool.
Um, so I like that one.
Okay. I will add that one to my list. I already wrote it down.
Okay.
Okay, Carl. So as we close, the one I kind of love to summarize is if you could go back to younger Carl, let's take it back a decade. If you could go back a decade to yourself and give yourself some advice, what would that be?
Well, that's tough. Uh, I've been through a very meandering um, career.
Okay.
I I think in some ways the biggest piece of advice would be trust the process.
Let's.
And I say that because I can look back and I can see that a lot of my life was wasted in anxiety,
Okay.
worry.
Yeah.
And I don't mean the kind of anxiety or worry that was clinical that you'd need, some kind of medication for.
Sure.
I think while that is, by the way, a major problem in America, I think that just the low level worry and concern about am I doing the right thing is one of the things that just unites us together as humans, but even more so as business owners, you know, and it might be from the standpoint of, am I going after the right customers? Did I make the right hires?
Sure.
Um, is this the time to invest or is this the time to sit on some cash? Right? Always, wondering. And I think um, if you do a good job of putting a great community around you and building a support structure around you, then um, the you have to start to believe in that community. And for those who put their faith in a higher power, then that as well.
Amen.
Believe that this is going to work out, um, and you know, be where you are, Carl. This is to myself. Be where you are 100%.
I love that. I,
Not not sitting in the future worrying about what that's going to look like, not dwelling on the past, but be where you are 100%.
yeah, I love that so much. What an excellent way for us to end. Well, brother, thank you for your time. If somebody's interested in getting connected to you, if you want to give out your cell phone, you're welcome to, but please don't feel like you have to because this goes all over the world. How can somebody get in touch with you if they say, "Hey, I don't want to have the wrong meeting, and I've got a business, I've got a family business, I've got this plan to be able to exit and have a life changing exit. I need to talk with the right person." How do they get connected to you?
Yeah. I think the easiest way is actually on LinkedIn. Uh, Carl Nicpon. There's
Perfect.
not many of us, so we're relatively easy to we're easy to find. Um, and know that I'll gladly respond.
Cool. That's awesome. I'll make sure that that's all in the show notes. Everybody who's listening or watching, all that his contact info is going to be in the show notes. Well, brother, thank you for your time. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We'll see you soon. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Market Mavericks. We hope you're walking away inspired and ready to take your own adventure to the next level. Don't forget to follow the show to keep up with our latest episodes. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to subscribe, share it with others who could benefit. And hey, if you know a market maverick who has a story that needs to be heard, please drop their name in the comments. We would love to bring their insights to the show. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries and leading with purpose.